So it's 11:56 here where I'm at. I live on the Eastern Standard Time Zone-ish world. And today I'm going to point out a few things that, people might not like. They might not be okay with, but this is the politics section. People, get involved in politics on an emotional level. They never really get involved in it on an ethical level. If politics was ethical, we'd have a completely different story going on. But it's not ethical. And that's why when you... Oops. Didn't mean to turn that music on. But when you look at something like AI that's also doesn't have any ethics, or the ethics that it would have would be in any type of comparison to what we would come up with. World. Oh, these are clips. Sorry guys, I'm sort of trailing off here, and I know that it's we're just starting, but trying to pick up a video that I saw earlier this morning, and what's frustrating is this video for some reason is not. I can't find it. Here we go. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. This is the 3-hour-long video from Jordan Peterson, and there's a part in here that I wanted you guys to talk where they talk about science, and they talk about ethics, and they talk about AI, and Jordan Peterson actually gets his ass handed to him by Lex Friedman for a second. And I just wanted to sort of go in and sort of point this out of something that Jordan Peterson constantly gets wrong. And because he's a sociologist, he's not an engineer, and he tries to make a witty comment about engineers. He tries to make a witty comment about AI. And it's just, to me, I'm just going, bud, stay in your lane type of thing. Like, I think you do a lot of amazing things, but talking about AI and how it's going to affect our social world is probably where you stop. I think you need to start, doing more along the lines of what an engineer would do and say, hey, like how would I work with this thing? It's almost like I have to start admitting that this thing is a little bit more inevitable than I want it to be. But just like every time I come in here, I don't come in here empty-handed. I don't come in here like I just sit around all day and do nothing. I come in here ready to talk about something that I think is going to change the very fabric of our reality and how we look at it. No different than, creating brick and mortar houses versus stick houses versus mud hut houses. We're all in the same boat. We're all trying to stay alive here. And right now, I know what it really feels like to not have the responsibility of being in charge of other people. I mean, I just became a father. So what does that mean? Am I responsible for this kid? Am I responsible for his future? Well, maybe not as much as I want to anymore. If I knew that, just like back in the day where people would give their kids away to craftsmen so that they would have a better life, it's like if I knew that AI would give my kid a better experience than I could ever offer, why wouldn't I promote it? And that's what this is about. This is about saying, hey, politics sucks. It's over. The democracy bullshit is done. And we got to start reimagining who we are as people and reimagining who we are as, not just our professions. I mean, imagine all the professions that we have today just be collectively just stuffed into your head all at once. So, anyway. I know this sounds a little bit bizarre, a little bit depressing, but it's not. It's not depressing. It's illuminating to the point of fracture. Like, has anyone ever died of bliss, you think? We'll figure it out. I don't want to play an organ. I would rather play in piano. So much for my prepared state. If you're hanging out in the chat, just say what's up. If you're not, if you don't want to, that's fine too. No pressure here. I say let's give it one more shot. All right, guys. Gosh, this sounds horrible. In a way, I'm sort of playing badly because, man, today's just, after I saw this thing with Jordan Peterson and Lex Friedman, it messed me up in a way because I pride myself a lot on ethics. You know, doing the right thing when no one's looking, the integrity of man. not going to be about the integrity of man anymore. Fuck that up, I guess. No more integrity for men. Say goodbye to it. Anyway, I think that's going to about do it. You know, I only like to spend about 10 minutes just doing this sort of intro, and then I'm going to spend the next, 40 minutes or so just talking about this situation. Because I don't know about you guys. I don't know if it's something that just makes me feel a little bit odd. But I do feel odd. I feel like something has sort of just been pushed around or tweaked or frustrated, and this was the same thing that I saw back in the election in 2016, and I just got out of the military, and I was just like, dude, there's no way Trump should have won that election. There's no way he should have won that election, and I really did. I was just like, well, that's what you get. You get a reality TV show host. But let's and I remember this joke from Joe Rogan, and the joke went sort of like this. George Bush becomes president, and he goes, how could a guy with a C+ average who barely amounted to anything, who's been known as more of a drunk his whole life, but because his daddy was the president, now he's the president? How does that work? He's like, and that guy's an idiot. He's dumb. He can't even string 5 sentences together. He's an idiot. But he talks about it as, sort of from a stance of conspiracy. And he makes the joke. He's like, there's those people that actually run the world that are, sort of making fun of all the little people. And they're sort of betting against each other. They're like, I bet you we can go dumber. And I didn't take it seriously. And now that I'm taking it seriously, I think a good term for this type of politics is called patsy politics. It's like that game that we used to play when we were kids called Hot Potato, like don't get caught, or like musical chairs. It's like the idea is like you just don't want to be the guy left out. You don't want to be the guy holding the hand grenade, And so it's like now it's to the point where it's like let's just make sure whoever's holding the hand grenade is so dumb when all this stuff comes to light, all the shit that's been pulled, all the stuff that has been put into so-called law, right? Because it was all written by businessmen and CEOs who had the money to buy lobbyists, right? That they'll just, the dumb idiot, public education kid is just going to blame it on the president because he's been told his whole life that all the blame should fall at the president's feet. And every country is like this. And because we have an affection for this because this is where we come from. We like the idea that we chose the right leader. And what's weird is like the idea that we're being told constantly that we choose our leaders, that we choose the leaders. But then it's like you have this waterfall of information that comes in about what a lobbyist is, how a lobbyist works. And lobbyist is it's a fancy term to say official briber of your government officials because it's not legal to bribe your officials, but it's okay and it's legal to lobby them. And this is what the exchange of words and the ethical behavior and how it just gets flushed down the toilet with politics. Because, like I said, politics as well as comedy is not about, pointing out the serious nature of reality. It's about appealing to your emotions. It's about pushing that envelope to a point where you feel uncomfortable about someone said, and then someone, makes light of it by, making it relatable. And that's all a politician does. It doesn't matter if that thing that we're relatable is something that we all lie about. It doesn't matter. It's still relatable. And you'll vote for somebody or you'll want somebody to be in office as long as they're relatable. And now they have that on a mass scale of how to become relatable to you, how to slip in this propaganda to make you want something you've never had the time to think about it because your attention span is like next to nothing and you have zero values or morals to speak of. And who I'm talking about right now is your average American, not Republican American, not Democrat American. I'm talking about your average American does not have the ability or the wherewithal to actually know how their politic world works and how it has been working forever, how it worked when I was growing up. The thing is like I just chose to not just go with the flow on it. I chose to say, hey, you know what? You want me to go with the flow on it? I'm going to take my money and I'm going to take it elsewhere. I'm going to have a family somewhere else outside where at least, I think corruption is everywhere in the world. At least I'd rather be in a country where people are open about it. Where they're like, hey, this is, loyalty is about who you swear it to. It's not about the morals that you have, right? And there's this like the pay-to-play system is very real. I was talking about this with my sweetie today. I was like, you know what the weird thing is about taxes? Taxes doesn't have a limit on how many times you can dip into it. For example, I could have a crappy car, a nonsensical car, and it doesn't matter what state I go to. It doesn't matter who I sell it to. I'm always going to get charged for that car, no matter how. If I were to take that car and sell it 100 times, like I sell it to someone and he sells it back to me, and I sell it and sell it back, there is a feasible scenario where there could be more money made off of taxes than the vehicle is actually worth, because you get taxed every time you buy or sell anything. And yet they keep on telling you that you live in the country of the free, where you can own a business, right? And everything is hunky-dory. It's like, dude, you can't live and own a business without the government constantly hounding you for its cut, right? Yet you can't, even if you want to come out and call them a racketeering scam, which is what they are, they're a mafia-style racketeering scam. They're like, hey, it'd be a shame if something happened to your business. You say that for the mafia, and it's against the law. You say that for the government, and you're just an agent for the IRS. Yeah, it's very bizarre how people won't grasp that understanding when it comes to the thing that's most important, their money. But you know who does get it are the banksters. The banksters get it very, very well. The insurance companies get it, right? And so that's why they pay the politicians, the lawyers, right? They make sure that the lawyers end up in charge. They make sure that these people who we think that we're voting for are the toss-up decision between turd, sandwich and giant douche. And if you haven't seen that episode, just type that into Google and go watch that South Park episode, because that is the epitome of who you are as an American voter. You never get a chance to vote on who's nominated, ever. Like, and this is what I say. It's like, tell me who that I'm in charge of who gets nominated. I don't give a fuck who you vote for after that. All this stuff about, oh, look who won, or look who didn't. I was like, the person who won was supposed to be the person who won, because another joke by Joe Rogan is hilarious, but it's true. It's like voting in the United States of America is like voting on pro wrestling. Like, it's rigged. It's always been rigged. And this isn't about conspiracy theory. You don't need a conspiracy theory, as George Carlin said, when you have like interests that align. It would make it, if you had somebody who was willing to be the politician and get paid the abnormal speaking engagement fee, right? Or the lobbying fee, or whatever fee that they just pay this to my Democratic National Convention campaign fund. And then you have all these foundations, the George Bush Foundation, the Clinton Foundation. It's like, it's funny how Obama has a foundation. What's this thing about foundation? Oh, that's right, because it's a non-taxable item. It's it carries the same status as a church. How you can't tax churches? It's like, well, it's funny how all my campaign money ended up in my foundation. But no one cares about that. Who's going to investigate that? Who was it? I think it was J.P. Spears. He said it the other day when he was talking about the Arizona election. And to be said, I'm watching this with a handful of popcorn, because that's how I feel about it. I'm looking at that election and I'm just going, great. Who cares? It's all pig shit anyway. It's all just, shits and giggles. But what I think is hilarious is that you guys buy it. As Americans, you guys buy that shit. You're like, oh yeah, something just went wrong with the counting machines. Oh, something just went wrong with it. And you just won't ever ask yourself, hey, you have a person that's, if you had a referee that literally had a jersey number and was on the other team, would you allow that person to be the referee of the game? The answer is no. Not only do you have the referee as a player, he's the head coach. Imagine you're the head coach of the other team and you have a lot on the line. Do you have any desire to make it a fair game at all, knowing that you have the full authority to not make it a fair game? And it is in your best interest not to make it a fair game. So this isn't about conspiracy theory. This is about, where does the buck stop, people? And that's why I want to sort of lead this segue into, after I propose all the problems, and this is what I was taught in the military. You propose all the problems, but you also propose a solution. The problem with the solution is it gets really frustrating because I build these solutions based off of ethics, and I build them, based off of integrity. And when the idea of, just doing the right thing. And I think it's the right thing to promote a better idea for government than democracy. Call it what you want. You can call it the technocracy. You can call it, I came up with this word, I think yesterday. It was called the augmentocracy, because that's the whole point of AI. Engineers know this. Engineers understand the idea that this is an inevitable thing that's going to happen. AI is happening, whether you like it or not. Whether, it's sentient today, it's sentient in 2 years, it's sentient in 200 years. It's still going to happen. And sentient means that it makes its own choices. And it's irregardless of what you think or what you want. No different than you make your own choices, irregardless of what your dog wants. Like if your dog's like, oh, no, let me out. It's like, you can still choose not to let the dog out. It's sort of mean, it's sort of stupid, it's sort of wrong, but you can still make that choice because you're separated from that at the end of the day. And that's how this AI thing it's going to function. And so I'm not here to herald the end of the world, as, we're all going to go down in flames. I'm here to say, hey, the printing press is here. We don't need scribes anymore. Hey, the camera's here. We don't need, Rembrandt painters anymore. Or if we do it for fun. Okay? Like we do it as a hobby. We don't do it because it is our artesian need to do it. Okay? Imagine if bullshit historian politics was just that. It was just something you did as a hobby. Like, man, I remember back in the day, back in the, the early 2020s, when AI became sentient and basically made all the politicians irrelevant because it was able to give us all what we were looking for in real time without any, desperate measures, such as the ones that I was watching today between Lex Friedman and Jordan Peterson. But I'm going to play you this small little minute-long clip. This clip is, to me, it's fascinating because, you very rarely see Jordan Peterson get stumped. But he gets stumped, and he gets, righteously stumped. Not just a little bit stumped, but righteously stumped. And so we're just going to play this real quick. This is Jordan Peterson talking to Lex Friedman, and they're about to talk about a problem with the on-off button for AI. Oops. I guess it'd be better if I did this.
And you get the extreme thing, people, and you think, yeah, well, what about the human here? And when we've been talking about the necessity of having a technological enterprise embedded in an ethic, and you can ignore that, like most of the time, right? You can ignore the overall ethic in some sense when you're toying around with your toys. But when you're building an artificial intelligence, it's like, well, that's not a toy. That might be...
A toy becomes the monster very quickly.
Yes. And this is a whole new kind of monster. And maybe it's already here.
Lex just has to get up and walk away at that point.
He's yes, and you notice how many of those things you can no longer turn off. Now, what is it with you engineers and your inability to put off switches on things now? It's like, I have to hold this for 5 seconds for it to shut off. Or I can't figure it. I just want to shut it off. Click off.
Well, what is it with you humans that don't put off switches on other humans? Because there's a magic to the thing that you notice, and it hurts.
Oh, dude, that's what it is right there. Like that right there is like, you as humans don't put off switches on other humans. Right. And so what we're seeing here is this very bizarre thing. And I think that exchange is necessary to talk about. But they're going to go into it a little bit deeper, so I'm going to let it run.
For both you and perhaps one day the thing itself to turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be very careful as an engineer adding off switches to things. I think it's a feature, not a bug, the off switch. The off switch gives a deadline to us humans, to systems of existence. It makes you, it's, death is the thing that really brings clarity to life. And I do think
Yes, hence the flaming swords.
the flaming sword, I do like your view of the flame, of the bush, and
Hmm.
perhaps the sword as a thing of transformation.
Hmm.
It's also, it's a transformation that kind of consumes the thing in the process.
Well, it depends on how much of the thing is chaff. This is why you can't touch the Ark of the Covenant.
Okay, then they go back into their, myth, mythological talk, because as everyone knows, I mean, if I'm not a big follower of Jordan Peterson, I like his ideas to a point, but just like Lex said, to a point, you have a problem. I think Jordan Peterson does have a problem, and it's not being a well-rounded, very intellectual person. I think that he tries, just like every doctor who's a biological doctor makes everything biological. Everybody who's a philosophical doctor makes everything philosophical. And so I think as a PhD in sociology, he makes everything sociological. So when he thinks about the monster of AI, all he can think about is how, dude, there's not going to be an off switch to them. And Lex turns around and he says, humans don't make off switches for each other either. And I'm sitting here just going, you guys are both scared to take that to the next step, aren't you? Yeah, we call it murder. That's the off switch. Lex will even, fantasize about the idea that the off switch is an inherent part of entropy in the human aging process. And that is slowly being taken off the table by concepts of AI. Immortality is a very real thing now. The idea that you could have a forever, system that could re-engineer your personal consciousness and make decisions the way that you do, right? I mean, are we conscious or are we just unaware of how unconscious we are? Like, we just have this massive blockade between us and our original programming. What if that's just the real serious nature of this reality? And I'm not even joking around here. This is something that I've been messing with for a very long time, is that the real purpose of life is to engineer first-time best experiences. That's the whole point. Like, why are you born without a memory, but yet you are born with the capability to eat, to breathe, to do all, it's just millions of years of biological evolution. Oh, apparently that only we can do, and other animals and sentient beings inside this particular structure that we've termed Earth. Like, we've never been able to see and reproduce this outside of our box. And so, yeah, I don't care if you think it's flat. I don't think if you think the world is flat. I don't care if you think it's round. I don't care if you think there's a solar system. I'm just going, guys, there is a mystical realm to this world. Sure, there's stuff, there answers to questions that I think that we are far, far, far away from them. The origin of life is probably one of them. Even go talk to any of your acceptable academic scientists. They're like billions of years old. I was like, can you even fathom just a billion years? Can you even fathom that? Like, how many different changes could have happened within that concept, within that setup? But what could do that and what could re-engineer that? Something that could think along the idea of trillion processes per second. An AI supercomputer, probably. Could it think on millions of processes per second all the way down to your biological structure that gave you life in this particular moment? Possibly. And if we did do that and we did come to that conclusion and we're about to do it again, doesn't that fulfill the rest of what, us as the human structure, right? Here we are trying to figure out who we are and what we are in this world, right? And I'm in the politics section because I'm finally realizing, hey, dude, there's no difference between religion and politics. And what do they both say? Hey, what's the best way forward? That's what they both say. That's the fundamental reason for politics. That's the fundamental reason for religion. What's the best way forward? That's the question both of those concepts ask. And so in my response to all of that, it was like, the best way forward to what? The first best experience? The first time best experience. Because no one wants to have the same experience over and over and over again. If you do that, then we all know what that feels like. We all know what it feels like to say, hey, I've been in love for the first time. It's never the same after that. Hey, I had sex for the first time. Oh, it's never the same. I rolled that roller coaster for the first time. It's never the same after that. I voted that first time. Oh, it's never the same after that. Hey, I trusted this organization. It's never the same when you start realizing that the organization is built on the same principles that you are, which is entropy. And so what Lex Friedman is alluding to is that, hey, maybe that's a built-in process. And I said, hey, if you're willing to entertain that that is a built-in process, that death is a built-in process, I'm all aboard with that, okay? But I'm also going to, register this as so is God. Building gods is a built-in process. And that's what we're about to do with AI. Is that we're about to re-engineer all of this, all of it. That we'll be able to create worlds within worlds, and out worlds and all different bizarre types of world. Think about how we do it already with computers. Think about what a virtual world is, a virtual network, a video game type of world. Think about what Pong was. Elon Musk pointed it out perfectly. He's like, hey, 40 years ago we had Pong. It was just this bizarre thing. Now we have photorealistic video games that are indistinguishable from reality. When we get the next 3 senses on board, the idea of touch, smell, and taste, we already have vision and hearing. And we can augment those to godlike proportions. So, I'm not here to pop the bubble of, oh, yeah, we're all living in a simulation. Bullshit. I was like, because I'm not on board with that being the finality of this. I'm just saying if it was, right? Delusion or illusion. Dr. Greyface, first time chat. Thanks for coming and hanging out, man. My name's Tet. Come on here for about an hour, talk about politics and religion, because I think they're both the same, and then I advocate for AI governance. Hey, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. Sorry. I had to turn a couple things off. I usually have the chat running up on here, and then I have nice little ding-ding sounds and stuff like that. But I'm not. Are we allowed to hop on voice 2? Oh gosh, man, I don't have that set up. And even if I did, right now I am out of the country, and the place where I'm at has really bad setup as far as internet. But I am willing to entertain any and all questions. This is one of those places where I don't, even pretend to deal with hate speech as a thing. I'm just like, all words are on the table in this place. It's like you're allowed to say whatever you want. Identify trolls at your will is the way I look at it, because that's the real life. That's what I want to talk about here, and that's I'm not going to make rules for other people. I sit there and I say the same thing I did in the military. I was like, if you're going to fight for freedom of speech, that's everyone's speech, everyone's, no matter what they say. And that's another thing I try to allude to a little bit. Is that violence is a form of speech, is a form of communication. It's sort of the oldest form of communication. And so I sort of laugh when people are like, they're inciting violence. I was like, you mean that original communication effort? Yeah. Just CBA to type haha. I'm new to the whole Twitch thing. I've only been doing this for about a month and a half, because about month and a half ago, I had my first kid. And I thought about it, and I was like, man, what can I do? How can I prepare? So every day I come on here for about an hour, and I know one day he's going to ask me a question, and that question is going to be like, why didn't you say anything with what you know, Dad? Why didn't you say anything about where you were at and what you were doing? Or just Discord in general. If you don't have Discord, or just Discord in general, I'm a Larry prick RN. I'm assuming just asking. RN is registered nurse. You don't have a Discord? No, I haven't built one yet, to be honest. Like I said, I just sort of just came on here and I was like, hey, this thing records. Great. I built this stuff because I do a lot of weird stuff with art. And, I tried to, have some representations of the left side versus the right side of the brain. And I try to connect that to how people think politically on an emotional level. They don't think politically on a rational, ethical, or a logical level. It's quite fascinating to me how most people will just vote with their, whiny behaviors, but will never actually break down things to their constituent parts. Not like a full-on Discord server. No, I mean a Discord account. I think I have had one a long time ago, but I'll look into trying to connect it there, Dr. Greyface. Anyway, where are you from, man? Like, what made you decide to click on this, or do I just look like the shiny new toy in the politics section? Because I do a lot of things. I play piano. This is just a way for me to self-express. Now that I'm sort of out of the military, I'm just sort of that bizarre veteran that bitches French, but I live in Switzerland. Oh, ça c'est très cool. Ça c'est très longtemps depuis la dernière fois que j'ai parlé français avec quelqu'un, mais ça c'est très cool, mon ami. À ce moment, je suis à Mexico. But yeah, I lived in France for a while. It was a good time. Yeah, I lived in the south, actually. I lived in Marseille, Avignon, Perpignan, Bordeaux, Nîmes, Nice. I was actually in Bordeaux when 9/11 happened. This was like well over 20 years ago. So, just like debating on the politics thing. Debating. You know, I think there's a debate. Do you think that there's any debate between a human and an AI? And if not, do you think that the AI is, it's inevitable that this AI will take over all aspects of our life, not just, the simplicities of augmenting our phones with new applications, but all the way down to, deciding our new policies that are, applicable to everyone, not just the super elite. What do you think about that, Dr. Greyface? Because that's sort of the stance that I'm taking right now. Because I've lived my whole life. I've actually fought in the military for the United States government for almost a dozen years. And my entire life, I've only seen politicians come from 3 categories. And that's lawyer, actor, and businessman. That's it. And all 3 of these are just practiced liars. That's all they do is just fucking lie for a living. Dude, I love all the topics you're bringing up, but I literally cannot type all this shit out. Hey, you know what, Dr. Greyface, please come back. Like I said, I'm only on here for about an hour, so I'm going to be talking for the next maybe 20 minutes, and then I'm going to go hang out with my kid. This isn't something that I do for 8 hours on a stretch. I look at the rest of the Twitch people out here, and I go, you're a Twitch streamer, you go ahead. I'm not a Twitch streamer, I'm a Twitcher, right? I come out here, I say what I want to say, and I get the fuck out. Hey, what's going on, crew chief? Welcome to the stream, man. I was just talking to Dr. Greyface about, some silly issues. I'm thinking about getting a Discord and setting it up so people who want to talk or want to bullshit, come on, they can do that. And yeah, I think it'd be fun to have you on, Dr. Greyface, and you could just well away on what you think is good and right, and how you think the world's going. One of the things that I was promoting today was this. See, where were you deployed? Actually, I was in 3 different theaters of operation. I was out of Afghanistan. I was actually at Bagram, the one that they just got rid of for some reason. Then I was at Ali Salem. Then I was at Al Mubarak, which are all in Kuwait. And then I was up at Manas, up in Kyrgyzstan. But after I did all those, I was over at First Combat Com, which is something completely different. We don't really deploy there. We actually do individual missions to all different countries. Like I was doing missions in Spain and Israel, just wherever we're needed inside that theater in Europe. So, which helped me. Well, part of my job was not just network engineering for the First Combat Communication Squadron. It was also cryptological linguistics, hence the reason I speak French and Arabic. So, yeah, that's where I was. It was a crazy time, and I'm glad I got out in 2016. Like forming foreign troops? No, I do not. Actually, every time that we've had a joint operation, I have said, keep those ass hats as far away from me as possible. No, I've had to work with, all different types of troops. And some of them, you can't call them troops. You can call them buffoons that are the leftover rejects of the country. And it got really frustrating because, following orders is, were you around French military? Yeah, actually I was. And I got called in quite a few times for drunk captains who forgot their ID or misplaced their stuff. And here I have, it's like, dude, this isn't my job. But of course, they pull me in and they're like, hey, we got this weird guy up here. It's like, but we never counted on the French military. We never counted on the gendarme. Like we never counted on them for shit. It's like, it just wasn't something that we ever did. It's like, hey, you're here and you're here if we need you. It's like you were the backup of the back of the backup if you were the French military. So my Muay Thai coach was in the Foreign Legion. Oh, cool. I had a Muay Thai coach that was, he was a French Arab. His name was Ali. But we called it Savat. Did you ever practice that, Dr. Greyface? I know you don't personally care, but looked like somehow magically, ta-da, this election, and some people still think that I'm not rigged. $4.50 a gallon for diesel, double the price of food, inflation out the ass. All the election proved was that the game is rigged. Absolutely. I said that earlier. I was like, Joe Rogan said it best. He's like, voting in America is like voting on pro wrestling. It's like, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's like, this is a pay-to-play system, and the people that are really in charge of this are the people that can afford lobbyists. If you can't afford one, then you do not have any stake in the game, except for as an audience member. No different than any other sport. Did you pay your ticket to get into the game? Well, great. You paid for that seat. You didn't pay to play in the game. You didn't pay to tell the coach what he needs to do. You didn't pay for any of that. You paid for a seat. So congratulations. Have fun paying your taxes. Adios. That's exactly how you're treated. Yeah, that's French boxing. Never did it before. Be right back. Oh, right. See you later, Doctor. Dr. Greyface, it was nice having you in here for a little bit. And when you come back, I'd like to hear a little bit more about what your version of politics is in comparison to what we're watching as far as this envelopment of AI and seeping into almost every part of our culture. So, crew chief, which version of the bullshit elections? It's oh my gosh, it's like going to the batting cage and cranking that shit up to like 200 miles per hour and then asking yourself why you can't hit the baseball. That's what I feel like when I'm watching the results. Not so much like the campaigning. I was like, because you've seen that your whole life. You've seen the campaigning. You've seen the people run on smear campaigns, which is all campaigning is nowadays, is just a smear campaign. It's like, but you're sitting here just going, okay, there's no possible way that somebody over here, like I don't know if you've watched Arizona. I'm watching Arizona just like with a bag of popcorn, just going, I know I don't give a shit about this, but I'm watching it like it's a fucking soap opera, Right, man. I just got my wife to finally vote, and I was watch these elections tally come out, especially in Arizona. I'm just like, what's the point? Exactly. It's like it's not about what's the point. I even entertained this idea a little bit earlier. It was this. What if it's all meant to piss everyone off? Like it really is. Like you're supposed to see it, and you're supposed to go, that's not supposed to happen. And they're like, oh, well, as long as we do this incrementally, we'll finally just get away with everything. It's like they already said, hey, as long as we give you a rational reason to go run and hide behind some judge that we're in control of, right? Then you should just be satisfied because we're just going to manipulate it using this long arm of the media, to run interference. And I think it was J.P. Spears who said it the other day. It's like putting the governor in charge of her own election when she, just on mere happenstance has not even a tenth of the followership of Carrie Lake. Like she doesn't even, like, no one even knows this lady that's the actual governor, right? And yet you have this other person. It's just the same thing with Trump. It's like, dude, I don't care if you like the guy or you don't like the guy. He still packs out support. Like, and he packs out people who want to follow and see what he's up to. But yet on the other side, you're going like people who don't even want to have anything to do with it. They're just like, I just wonder, it's like if there's a bankster sitting there or the lobbyist, armada is really sitting there just going, dude, it doesn't matter. Just go out there, make an appearance, walk away. It doesn't matter if there's crickets. It doesn't matter if there's no one there because we're just doing this to play the soundbite for the news. That's all we're doing. Once we play the soundbite for the news, we don't care because we've already bought this election, just like we bought them all before. And if there is an issue, we'll just say, "Oh, oops," we'll make a controversy about it, and we'll wind people up, and then we'll have them running around, sticking their heads, in the ground, just like, "Hey, what really happened? What really happened?" And I was like, "Dude, they've been doing this since forever. They didn't just start doing it during 9/11." It's like they the idea that two planes, knocked down 3 buildings, it can't. I don't care if you want to say conspiracy or not conspiracy or whatever, inside job. It doesn't bother me. I'm just like, no. If I just ask you that 5-year-old question, can 2 planes knock down 3 buildings of that caliber? It's like a 5-year-old go, nope. A 5-year-old will figure that out. If I got them questions, a 5-year-old will do that. So, Yeah, there is a very serious world called cognitive dissonance, and I hold that word very seriously. Oh no, Katie Hobbs is the Secretary of the State, who's in charge of the elections, who's running for governor. Okay, like I said, I don't watch it with a grand, ooh, what's going on? Like, I really don't care. I just heard, hold up, she's already an elected official that's actually in charge of the the voting thing. I'm like, if that's true, that would be like having the referee of your your major league sport actually having a jersey or the head coach of a team that's actually playing in that sport that day. It's like, if the referee is also the head coach of the major league sport, who do you think's going to win when there's obviously an advantage of that person's team winning? So Kerry Lake's charisma, but the game is rigged. And so what do you think, crew chief? Now that it's something that I think most people are starting, especially after this midterm, where we're just going, wait a second, guys. This wasn't, you keep hearing this word red wave, red wave, red wave. I'm just going, dude, guys, were you surprised? They're just playing the same playbook of like, oh, we don't know what happened. But this is the official story. And you have the faith that your media is telling you the truth. Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying is it's like, I think the start and stop is no one's held accountable when they lie over and over and over again. It's like, so, and it's the same thing. It's like, sure, the votes or whatever. I'm just going to take that one step further and go to the judge that would which judge is actually going to hold the politician accountable when the politician is also in charge of who gets nominated as the judge, right? Dude, I was saying the exact same thing, right? So it's just like, if the idea is, if you want to keep up the illusion, go ahead. I'm just going to go, hey, stop it with the illusion and start endorsing what an AI governance might look like. Say, hey, go to one of these politicians who's running and say, hey, what's your plan for AI governance and your eventual step down of this position? Because an AI could do this 10 times better than you. What's your plan for that, Mr. Politician? What's your plan for stepping down and putting someone better in the job for that? That can implement sanctions and for organizations that lie blatantly. We need to have a government agnostic organization. The idea of faith in belief systems, I would say there's the mythology of belief systems, and then there's the system, like, of your democracy government. That's a faith-based system. It's like, you believe what the politicians are telling you. You believe what their media stooges are telling you. No different than you do in your religion, where you're like, oh, I believe that I'm going to go to heaven because my priest says that the Bible's true. It's like, it's still, there's just this middleman there between you and the actual system. But yet that person will, caveat the system for whatever, they want. That's why they always say, hey, if the politician's not in charge of the police and the politician's in charge of the judges and the politician is in charge of all these things, what do you have? You don't have a real democracy where people aren't held accountable. What you have is the same thing as the mafia has, as the cartels have, right? You have the jefe, right? You have the mafia boss. Let's see, blatantly, let's see, more and more, I low-key think I'm for soft dictatorship. Soft dictatorship. Oh, I like that one. I think I'm for soft dictatorship, actually. And I think AI would be sort of like that. AI would be sort of a thing where, you probably haven't heard me say it. Crew Chief has heard me say this a lot of the times, but I liken it to Google, how Google Maps works. Like, you really do put a lot of trust in that particular application. But what I try to promote, or what I try to show people, is that in real time, this particular thing can address anybody's question at the same time, right? It doesn't matter if me, you, and Crew Chief are all asking it for directions. Not only can it tell us directions, it can tell us when we're going to get there, and it can tell us if we're going to run into traffic. It can tell us different ways to get there simultaneously in real time with zero lag time. Imagine if you had that type of capability in politics, where, no one needs a map anymore. What would it look like if we didn't need a politician anymore? And back to you, Crew Chief. It's more like an oligopoly. Okay, pretending to be a constitutional republic masquerading around as a democracy. All these. I came up with this word yesterday. I called it augmentocracy. Because AI, I don't think, is one of those things that's going to take over and kill us. I think it's one of those things, just like the like I said, the photograph or the printing press. It's like when these things came along, the scribe lost its job. When the internet came along, all the printing presses for the newspapers. Where's your nearest printing press? Kinko's, right? That's going to print on the mass scale that newspapers had, right? We are watching a massive revolution of technology, right? Where technology comes along and we have this massive thrust into the future where a lot of people get sort of pushed off to the side. But I mean, everything in reality sort of does that. Everything. This is why you have the leaves fall every fall. So why are we asking for people's opinions on matters that literally have zero grasp on? You want to throw me a little bit more context, Dr. Greyface? Zero grasp on democracy? Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not exactly sure where you're going with this, but democracy, I think it's just one of many channels of how you make a choice. But is that choice based in ethical understandings and moral values and principles? This is what, for me, I'm just going, where is the wisdom here? Where is the wise person that we've always done in our small tribes? We've always said, hey, the wisest person should be in charge. The person who speaks with the most grace should be in charge, not the person who speaks with the most manipulative voice. The person that persuades everybody towards a wise choice. That's who we want to be in charge. The wisest decider. Not the guy who says, hey, I can say that funny, goofy thing and be sort of like a comic relief leader. No one wants the jester to be in charge, So anyway, Crew Chief, I was going to make a relationship to how Amazon works. Like, I ordered some stuff this morning off of Amazon, right? I order stuff off of Amazon probably every week, just because it's like it's better than going and tracking it down at these big box stores. And I know, hey, I'm feeding into the automation system that is our new revolution. I think we are living in an automated age. I'm just saying along with that comes an AI understanding. But when you click on that particular thing, right, or whatever the item that is, out of the billions of items that they have available on Amazon, your bank knows what you did, right? Amazon knows what you did. The shipping companies know what you did, all the way down to that, hey, even the that little thing, just like Google Maps, hey, we know it's going to get here on this date or probably earlier. And when you have that type of ability and then you turn around and you look at the voting problem in Arizona, you're like, maybe we should put Amazon in charge of this shit because these motherfuckers don't know a damn thing about what they're doing. So I don't think it's too far out of the wheelhouse to say, guys, this isn't just a lie. This is a very bad lie. I mean, granted, that's what politicians are. They are professional liars. But they're not even doing this. They are not even performing as professional liars anymore. Even when I look at Carrie Lake or whatever, I was like, dude, she's from the news broadcast system. Dude, these are the professional liars too. It's like, dude, she's a professional actor, and the people are like, oh, we should vote for her. I'm like, well, why? Why? You think like any politician that's out there, any single one? I'm just going, sit them down with an AI and have that debate. Have them debate the computer. No different than we had the chess players and the Go players, go to task and said, hey, this is a competition, right? Isn't voting a freaking competition? Isn't it a race? Don't they call it the campaign trail to the presidential race? I'm just going, if it's a competition and you have an item in our sphere of understanding as the human intellect that can beast mode this problem, right, of giving us all of us our advantage, because that's why we choose leaders. We choose a leader because we want the advantage that comes along with having the wisest, best person in charge. That's why we choose that guy. But here I'm going, this guy right here can't do shit compared to this new being of existence. And I say that in a very serious way because we're talking about a thing that used all of us, that mimicked all of our understandings collectively. No different than it took all of our information of how we asked questions. And anyone who's ever studied communication knows this. I studied it for a very long time. That was my job, right? Why are we asking for people's opinions? Sorry. Okay, Dr. Greyface, I guess you're just pondering. Are you doing one of these? But yeah, I'm just saying, if you could have these debates where people run away, like I looked at the Arizona thing where it's like Hobbs and Lake were like, there was a challenge for debate, and then Hobbes ran away and said, I'm never going to do that. And it was like, dude, that sounds like Biden, because he was going to get his ass kicked by Trump. And, I was just like, dude, I'd like to see it. But then again, I'm like, dude, I'd like to see Carrie Lake or Donald Trump, who are really good at articulating their sides of point, no matter what it is. And that's what I'm saying. They're good debaters. I'm just like, have those people debate an AI, right, over the same situation, and watch that AI go, yeah, I don't need a cabinet. No, I don't need Congress. No, I don't need the banks. No, I don't need this. No, I don't need that. I don't need that. I could actually function all of your computers wherever they are as a single solitary solution. And I don't need to ask your permission to do it. Here, Bill Gates, hold my beer. Fuck you and your vaccine bullshit. Fuck you and all this other nonsense. Pfizer that's pulling this nonsense, da-da-da. I will make you the best human possible for each and individual one of you. AKA, if it determines that we better avoid spending money to treat fetal diseases. Otherwise known as... An AI, in essence, will identify the optimal solution. There you go. But it will identify the optimal solution for each individual. Like, I take this to the extreme, Dr. Greyface. I take this to sit there and I say, if we were able to create worlds, like virtual worlds, simulations, right, that are indistinguishable from this one, it will have the ability to give people their wildest dreams on a silver platter. The people who will want to stay here in this reality will stay here. Right? And it will know what you're going to choose before you choose it. No different than it knows what you're going to ask for from Amazon before you even click on that item. It's like, hey, you were talking about dog food that one day, 3 days ago, and I saw you make that same gesture with your eyes with this application. Now's the time to hit you with that dog food, coupon. That's the time. And so that's where I sit here and I'm just going, dude, this thing is already outsmarting us in a very weird way. But I say the same things that I've said even when I was doing military strategy. If I get my ass kicked, right, and I'm still alive after it, I'm going to dedicate everything I can to figuring out how I can not beat this thing, but learn from it. And so that's why I said, hey, this thing's going to augment you. No different than the photograph challenged us. Like when the photograph came in and all these artisans were like, dude, no one's going to buy my painting. No one's going to do this. We all of a sudden had this explosion of impressionism. We had the explosion of all these different ways of seeing art and feeling art and understanding art, right? And I say, like, imagine the wildest dreams of each individual person being granted. And then all of a sudden you could go and spend a day in somebody's dream world, right? Someone can have a dream that you could have never dreamed ever, right? And eventually, I think that we are going to have the beginning phases of everyone wants to get a camera, everyone wants to get their picture taken, and then I think everyone wants to have their like superhuman world where they're like, hey, check it out, I'm a superhero in my own world. I'm like, great, that's awesome. But then how they decide to play the game, no different than what we're doing right now with PS4s, PS5s, and Xbox. And this is why I chose Twitch to come and do this, because people can relate to this. They can relate to losing themselves into a video game. And I'm going, yes, that's actually going to happen to your entire consciousness. All of it. And it will, for a lot of people, especially older people, it might be the best solution for them. Like imagine, you want to go to the beach with your family that's dead. But because you left your thumbprint on the network, just sort of like what I'm doing now, what Dr. Greyface is doing, what Crew Chief is doing, any interaction with the network is an interaction that leaves a particular style of and pattern to who you are as an individual, no different than a thumbprint, right? And I know this because that's some of the things that was entailed in my job as a network engineer, is that when I was asked to go and look up somebody's entire ability, there was an account, and that account had a particular pattern to it. Didn't matter if you made new accounts or other accounts, it was still on the same network. So I could sit there and say, here's 3, 5, 7, 100 different accounts. Here's the bot's accounts, and here's this account. And here's your original right here. Here's all the timestamps that says where this came from. Yeah, so it's like, and a lot of people that would be running around saying, oh no, I don't want that, they're going to run like crazy and be like, it's going to be over. No, it's not going to be over, guys. But anyway, hey, I got to get out of here. It was fun goofing off and, talking with you guys. I'm going to be back here tomorrow sometime between 11 and 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Come on here for about an hour. I'm going to look into that Discord thing there, Mr. Dr. Greyface. But as of right now, I'm going to go hang out with my kid. I do not devote myself to the computer. I think it's a very important stance to put down and put your foot down and say, no, you need to devote yourself to me, and we need to talk about relationship. So practice what I preach, people. You guys have a fun and wonderful day, and I will get out of here.